Hey everyone, it's Dave here with bluebearsgames, and welcome back to another episode of Blues Budget Battle Brews. This week's deck, we're going to be going over a newer brew for me, which is Boros, or Red-White Cycling. So, again, Boros, also known as Red and White. Let's see, the theory for this deck is actually or the strategy here, is to just get a cycling enabler to stick, so various little creatures or enchantments that benefit or help you kill your opponent because you're cycling cards. Get it to stick, and then just cycle. Oh, and do more cycling. So that is the theme of the deck. This deck actually doesn't really care about what your opponent is doing. You just want to get your strategy to work, okay? So I'll go over the deck, and then, as I did last week, I'll give you a couple of upgrade options that I would go with for this. So, we start off with a Flourishing Fox. It's 1 to cast, 1/1. It itself has cycling for 1, and then whenever you cycle another card, you can put a +1/+1 on them. So if you can't get the cycling thing to work as far as getting damage in, at least you can make your creature bigger and then attack in with that. So we got 2 of them. Drannith Healer also has almost every card in this deck is going to have cycling, so let's just get that out of the way. This one just cycles for 1. Whenever you cycle another card, you gain a life, so if you need to gain life instead of do damage and you're in a bind, Drannith Healer is there for you. Valiant Rescuer, it has cycling 2, and whenever you cycle another card for the first time each turn, create a 1/1 white human soldier creature token. So this helps you gain board state, helps you protect against incoming attacks. Winged Shepherd, it's in here because it cycles for 1. It is a creature, and you're going to notice that there's some expensive creatures in here. The point of this is to have as cheap a cost of cycling as possible for the deck. And then there is another way that we can go about it, but unfortunately that would only be in a black version of the deck. And I do have a white-black version coming up. I will go over that later, but this is in here for the fact that it's only 1 to cycle it. 4 of them. The way to win in this deck, for the most part, is Drannith Stinger. It is a 2/2 for 2. Whenever you cycle another card, it deals 1 damage to each opponent. And if you're cycling your whole deck, hopefully you're doing enough damage to just kill your opponent outright. And again, it also cycles for 1. The first rare is Spellpire Phoenix. It's a 5 to cast 4/2 flyer. When it enters the battlefield, you may return an instant or sorcery card with a cycling ability from your graveyard to your hand, so that you can cycle it again, maybe. And at the beginning of each end step, if you cycled 2 or more cards this turn, return the Phoenix from your graveyard to your hand so you can cast it again, and again get another spell back. Desert Ceradon, same thing as the Angel. It's 1 to cycle, so that's why it's in here. Yadaro, the Wandering Monster. It's a dinosaur turtle. Let's just get that out of the way. It's a dinosaur and a turtle. Come on now. It's an 8/8 for 7. It has trample and haste. It cycles for a red and 1. And here's the tricky part. You have to keep track of it. When you cycle it, it shuffles into its owner's library from the graveyard. And then if you've cycled a card named Yadaro, the Wandering Monster, 4 or more times this game, you put it onto the battlefield instead of your graveyard. You also get to draw the card that you cycled for. So, really good synergy here. It gives you an 8/8 trampling haste. And that's where the upgrade section is going to come in. Alright. So that's the creatures. Here are the spells. So you've got Angel Song. It cycles for 2. And then if you need to use it, it prevents all combat damage that would be dealt this turn. So it helps keep you alive. Renewed Faith. It cycles to gain life. I'm sorry. You cast it to gain life, but if you cycle it, you gain life anyway. So you get the card in the life. So, helps keep you alive. Gleam of Resistance. It's in here for the land cycling. Again, red-white does not have a great record of getting land into play. This is to help you at least get into your hand so you can go ahead and put it into play. And also, the other thing is when you land cycle, when you get the card, you also draw. You know what? I don't think that's true. I read that somewhere, and I don't think that's true. I'll look it up, and I'll have it up here, the answer to that. I could have swore basic land cycling just meant you go and get a card, but yeah, that's what it means. Whoever said that was wrong. You just go and get a land, a basic land. So in this deck, it would be a mountain or a plains, and at least it goes into your hand instead of drawing a card. Okay, got it. I don't know what they were talking about. All right, go for blood. It's in here for the fact that it cycles for 1. But, I mean, if you need it, the Flourishing Fox could be big enough that you can kill one of your opponent's creatures. So, it works both ways. Inferno Jet, it deals 6 damage to an opponent, or it cycles for 2. Most likely you're going to cycle it, but you may actually be able to kill your opponent just with the 6 damage from Inferno Jet. There's 2 of them in there. Fiery Fall deals 5 damage to our creature, and it has basic land cycling as well, so you can go ahead and grab more land if you need it. The other part that will help you kill your opponent is Zenith Flare. So it's 4 to cast. It deals X damage to any target, and you gain X life, where X is the number of cards with cycling in your graveyard. You should have a whole bunch. This should hit for a lot, and you should gain a lot. The foil rare in here was Astral Drift. So whenever you cycle either Astral Drift itself or another card while it's on the battlefield, you may exile target creature. And then if you do, return that card to the battlefield under its owner's control at the beginning of the next end step. Anybody who watched the Flicker deck that I did last week will know that that's what this does. This flickers something, and it also itself cycles. So, the reason for this is defensively. So, you don't have a lot of enter the battlefield effects. Let's just be honest. You're all going to be cycling. This is for defensive purposes. So, if you want to, you can flicker your opponent's creatures so they can't attack you. Lightning Helix, another way to help you win with the cycling. Whenever a player cycles a card, you may pay 1, and if you do, the Rift deals 2 damage to a creature or player, so you can hit them directly to the dome, or you can hit one of their creatures. 2 of them. Unpredictable Cyclone, it's kind of a neat little card in here. It's 5 to cast, and an enchantment. If a cycling ability of another non-land card would cause you to draw a card, instead, exile cards from the top of your library into exile a card that shares a creature type, or a card type with the exiled card, and then you may cast that card without paying its mana cost, and then put the exiled cards that weren't cast on the bottom of your library in a random order. It has cycling. So what that basically means, if you have, say, one of these in hand, and you cycle it with the Unpredictable Cyclone in play, you, instead of discarding it and drawing a card, you would flip cards over until you exile a card that's the same type, so it would be a creature, and then you may play it for free. So that's why these creatures, while they're expensive, can actually work, because they're big, like 6/4 here, a 3/3 flyer with vigilance here, so you can still get them in play with this. So that's why this is in here. And then the lands go, as I always do, 2 Evolving Wilds in a dual color deck because you want mana fixing. Playset of Windscarred Crags. I have these in here now instead of the gates because I want you to be able to gain life so that you can survive longer. And then a multitude of mountains and plains. So that is what's inside the deck just to start. Some upgrade options that I have for you. So first, I actually couldn't find enough to include in this build, but all the cards that cycle for only a single mana, except for the land cyclers, of course. Since, you know, I would switch out anything that's not one colorless to cycle. So except for the basic land cyclers, I would change that out because it makes it cheaper to do rather than having to worry about paying like a colored and 1 or paying 2, because that can get kind of expensive. You want as little cost on your cycling as possible. So that would be the first thing I would do. To go along with that, I don't have them because they're older and they were only reprinted recently in a Commander set, and that's only one. Is if you really want it, it wouldn't really matter what your cycling cost was, because if it was 2 colorless, if you add fluctuators to this deck, you're basically cycling your whole deck for free. So that's a couple of the things I would add in for just the cycling part of it. I would change out a lot of the basics in here. For the cycling lands, there are mountains. I'm sorry, but not mountains, but there are lands that tap for red and white that also cycle. There's 3 different kinds. There's one that does it for a colored and a colorless. There's one that does it for 2, and then there is the one that does it for 1 of the color. So there are 3 different kinds, and I would swap them in to give this more cycling ability. The only issue I have with the cycling lands is that they all enter tapped. So I would limit it a little bit to, maybe 4 or 8 total. Just because you don't want to be so slow because all of your lands come into play tapped. So, speaking of land, I would also add maybe some Sacred Foundries or Clifftop Retreats to help give a little bit more smoothness to your land base here. I would myself add probably 2 more Drana Stingers for more damage being done. Definitely add 2 more Zenith Flares. Maybe 1 more Unpredictable Cyclone and 1 more Yadaro. What the guy? The guy. The big turtle. The turtle. This guy, Yadaro. I would add another one of him just so that you can have consistency. You can get both of them out maybe. And let me see. And I didn't have one. I wish I had one. I had actually put them in other decks and sold them already. But a great addition to this would be Tectonic Reformation. It actually changes it so that all of your basics have cycling. So and it cycles for red. So it would eliminate the need to put in the lands that already have cycling because they come into play tapped, whereas basics don't. So those are just a couple of changes that I would make, or upgrades I would make to this deck if I was to purchase it. You can do what you will. You can take this build and try it. It's actually kind of fun. It's a little different way to do it. Now, speaking of purchasing, like all of my other Blues Budget Battle Brews deck, this deck is also $20. All of them are going to be $20. So let's just get that out of the way. This one will be $20, free shipping on more than 1 deck bought. You can go ahead to the Facebook page. I am starting to put them all up on the store there. Eventually, maybe Facebook will give me the ability to ship again, and I'll have them up on the Facebook Marketplace. But for now, just go to bluebearsgames on Facebook, and you'll be able to find any of the decks that I have in these videos up. Worst case scenario, send me a message. We'll work out something so we can make a deal, and you can go ahead and acquire the deck. So, other than that, that is my time for the week. Again, I want to thank you for watching. Please remember to do me the favor. Like, subscribe, and share. And if you have any questions, comments, or even suggestions, please feel free to contact me, again, through the Facebook page. I'll be more than happy to go over anything you would like. Please stay safe, enjoy your week, and I will see you all next week.